to see you all. So a lot of you have heard this song on the previous Sunday stream. After the concert, when I recorded this song live, I was presenting it on the stream last week, on last Sunday stream, and it was here in Kyiv. The Kai Energetic was performing, and the lead singer of this band was mobilized, conscripted, just about 2 months ago. So I think he finished his basic training already, and I guess he had a third corps T-shirt. So maybe he joined the third corps, the one that was formed on the base of the 3rd Assault Brigade, led by Andriy Biletsky. Yes, the corps commander he is. Hi guys, is this Ukrainian music evening? Hello, Ron Diani. It is not a Ukrainian music evening, but I'm setting a Ukrainian music in the beginning of my every stream. And my, basically my streams are about raising funds for Ukrainian army. That's the primarily goal. Talking about the war in Ukraine and politics in Ukraine and in the world, and also talking about Russian influence in the world. Today we're going to be talking to Philip Obaji. He is from Nigeria, and he is a human rights defender and journalist who is investigating Russian war crimes all around Africa. And I really hope we're going to be able to help him raise funds for his project today too. He asked me for help, and I'm glad to help because he's doing a very important work. And to be honest, I trust Philip. He seems like an honest person to me, and a good person, most importantly. And Philip, the microphone is yours.
Yes, for the next few minutes, I'll be the host. So, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. It's always a great honor to be on this show. Rick is a great friend, and I'm happy to do what I do. For those who don't know me, I am a Nigerian journalist who writes for quite a number of publications, including the Daily Beast, The Guardian, USA Today, and Al Jazeera. Well, my focus in the last 7 years has been almost entirely on the operations of Russian paramilitaries and generally Russian influence operations across Africa. I have uncovered gut wrenching massacres, rape, and other forms of human rights abuses by Russian paramilitaries deployed in West and Central Africa, particularly the Central African Republic, a very impoverished country somewhere in the central part of Africa. And I've also focused a lot on what the Russians have been doing in Mali, a landlocked country in West Africa. And it hasn't ended in operations or activities of paramilitaries from Russia in Western Central Africa. I've also investigated Russian disinformation that is spreading like wildfire across West and Central Africa. Some people in East Africa have reported reading a lot about Russian disinformation, as are the people who live in Southern Africa. So Russia's influence oppression is a massive, from military presence to disinformation campaigns, and they are huge. I mean, we're seeing disinformation spread across Africa, and so much of propaganda and fake news coming from organizations that are linked to the Kremlin. So it's not what I think that we should treat with kid gloves. I think that a lot of us, a lot of people have to come out to speak about these crimes, and action has to be taken. I mean, I'm thinking about young ladies, young women in Central Africa and Mali who have been raped or abused by paramilitaries deployed from Russia. I'm also thinking of people who have been at the center of Russian disinformation. I also have been at the center of Russian disinformation because there's lots of fake news that has been spread about me in the media. And if you visit Telegram or you go to X, you will see so much being said about me that's completely false. People trying to discredit me, calling me all sorts of names that are not true. So it's not just me, there are countless other people that have become targets of
Hmm.
Russian propaganda. So that's how you deal with issues if you decide as a journalist to expose crimes, expose ill treatment, and do what you feel is right. But I'm happy to be here. I have faced lots of attacks physically as well, and for those who may have heard me in this show the last time, I did speak about how I was arrested, tortured, and detained in the Central African Republic by Central African soldiers acting on the orders of Russian paramilitaries. I was injured, traumatized, and I was lucky that I didn't get killed. So
Hmm.
it's not been easy. The work hasn't stopped. For me, it's only the beginning because there's still a lot out there to talk about, a lot out there to expose, so much to uncover. But it's nice to be here.
Thank you for sharing all that. And you, I already have a few questions for you. But what? You were also pretty lucky to survive that detention in Central African Republic, that where you were tortured. So, guys, just like, if not that luck, and Philip, I think you also confirmed that it was a pure luck, right? That
That's correct.
that they let you go. If not that luck, we would not see Philip here already. And in my opinion, the fact that Philip is like actively and widely attacked, okay, should be better. Good to see you, my friend.
Oh, guys, how you doing?
That's Philip.
Hi, Fozzy. It's
You
good
alright,
to
bro?
see
How you
you.
doing? You too, man.
Oh wait,
Yeah,
maybe you know each
welcome.
other already.
Huh?
You know each other already, no?
I don't think so. No.
No, not really. We're meeting for the first time. Yeah.
Fuzzy, then I think it's your turn to introduce yourself.
Yeah. So my name's Fuzzy, bro. Yeah, I serve in the National Guard. And I'm just big chilling at the minute. So yeah.
Big chillin'. Oh, so he kinda did not say anything. So Fuzzy is a mortar man. He's been serving in Ukrainian army since 2022, right, Fuzzy?
Yes.
2022. He was changing units, and yeah, National Guard is what he can say at the moment, because he's kinda in the middle of some units, I guess.
I am.
Yeah, so we're saying this today. What I was saying that since Philip is so like actively attacked by Russian misinformation and physically attacked, that's actually a good sign that he is doing a good work. You know, in my opinion. So
Oh,
you,
yes. I should think so. And I know I may not be I may not be as brave as Fozzy, who apparently has been to the front lines. But I think my story of survival, you know,
Bro,
and
you're doing good. Like I've got like a whole army behind me. You're on your own here, bro. Like
uh, so
but yes, I'm always saying this every time that I am grateful, really grateful for being alive. I mean, it was not something I thought I will be able to achieve. I mean, being alive for me is an achievement. So yeah, it comes with lots of gratitude.
well, that's good that you're with us and that your work is effective. If it was not effective, they would not be spending bots and also some thugs on you to try to kill you or intimidate you or to kind of destroy your reputation, right? So
Correct.
that
Yeah.
means you're doing a good job. So, guys, I want to talk about the fundraiser that Philip has. It's GoFundMe. You can see it on the screen right now. Philip is in the studio. I guess they're sitting like on that YouTube video's cover. Philip, It's Voice of America. I see it. Yes,
Oh yeah.
Voice of
Before it
America.
was yeah, before it was targeted by the Trump administration. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
So yeah, guys, the link is, I guess, already in the chat. Let's see. But I'm gonna send it there anyway once again. Give me a second. So, Philip, can you please tell us where the money go?
oh yes. So now before now, there's been lots of reporting about the operations of Russian paramilitaries in Central Africa. And a lot of people know that the Wagner Group has been active in the Central African Republic, and they have been carrying out gold mining activities, selling gold from the country to fund the war in Ukraine. And many companies, a number of companies were set up in the country by Yevgeny Prigozhin,
Hmm.
and these companies were involved in the exploration and sale of gold, Central African gold, to merchants in the Middle East and elsewhere in Africa. But ultimately, over $2.5 billion worth of gold have been reported to have been sold by Russian agents, you know, overseas. And much of these funds, if not the entire amount of that money recovered, has been used to fund Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So I felt that we had focused a lot on the Central African Republic, but the
Hmm.
Russians have been active elsewhere in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger,
Yeah.
and their campaign of disinformation is spreading across the continent. They're also very active in North Africa, particularly in Algeria, but nothing much is known about Russia's operations outside Central Africa. I mean, some people know a little bit about Mali, but there's still so much to be told about Russia's operations in Africa, human rights abuses, massacres, and what have you. So I decided, being an independent journalist, I decided to set up a GoFundMe campaign to raise funds to be able to travel across the continent to get to understand what Russia is doing elsewhere and to be able to report so that the world can get to know fully exactly what Russia intends to achieve in Africa and how Russia's intentions in Africa really somehow affects not just Europe but mostly Ukraine. And now, based on what this support that I have gotten, I've been able to speak with lots of people in Niger, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, who have painted a clearer picture about how Russia is trying to create a migration crisis for Europe by forcing migrants to travel from West Africa across the Sahara Desert and across the Mediterranean Sea into Europe. So there's an attempt to flood Europe with migrants. So these are the
Hmm.
kind of things that the monies that we're raising on GoFundMe is helping to uncover. Issues around, migration, issues around human rights abuses, whether it's rape or massacres or torture, as we have uncovered in Mali. Yes, but there's a lot more. I'd like to find out exactly how Russia gets to, pay middlemen to encourage migration from Africa to Europe. I'd like to find out how people are paid to spread this information beyond, areas like
Hmm.
Togo and Burkina Faso. I'd like to find out about new reports of massacres, new incidents of torture, because there's so much out there that we haven't been able to tell. And I want to be sure that we've looked in every area in Africa and that we've seen virtually everything that the Russians have done. So that's what the monies that have been donated to me, you know,
Hmm.
are used for. Yeah.
Okay. Good. I think it's totally understandable. And my friends, if you can donate anything to this campaign, please donate. I actually wanted to ask you, Philip, um, how, no, what narratives are Russia pushing, what of their propaganda, of course, in Africa?
Well, much of it is targeted at Ukraine. And if you look at a number of these articles, By the way, let me explain something. Russia has created a news website called the Africa Initiative, and that website publishes in English, in Russian, in Arabic, in French, and the website. What most of the people who are behind this website are people who worked with the Wagner Group under Prigozhin,
Mm-hmm.
and Africa Initiative has also inherited some of Wagner's old accounts on Telegram in particular. And they operate pages not only in Telegram, they operate accounts also on YouTube and what have you. And we're talking about over 60,000 subscribers on all these platforms. So on Africa Initiative, you will find articles that say that the United States is moving bioweapons labs from Ukraine into Africa,
Mm.
and that there are also plans to build, new bioweapons labs in Africa by the US. And beyond that, you will read from a number of articles that are published in the media in Africa. In fact, some major news sites and newspapers in West and Central Africa have been publishing articles that are that are written by pro-Russian agents, or that by Russian agents, I should say. And you find articles that say Ukraine is a country that hates Africa, articles that say that the US, France is an enemy of Africa, and that
Mm-hmm.
Russia is the answer to Africa. So that's the kinds of narratives, that you
Mm-hmm.
find in the media. That's narratives that have been pushed out there by authors that have received money from Russian institutions. So it's mostly targeted at the West and targeted at Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, to some extent, Ukraine has not got too many friends in Africa, because Russian disinformation has made Ukraine look like an enemy to
Mm-hmm.
Africa. Yeah, there are quite a number of people who love Ukraine, people like me, and I know many more out there. But Russia's disinformation campaign has really somehow turned a lot of people against Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so mostly demonize Ukraine and United States, Europe, and make Russia good, right? So that's their main objectives. Understandable, typical Russian behavior since
Correct.
since Soviet Union. I don't know about the Russian Empire, but in Soviet Union they were doing the same. The Soviet influence in Africa, I guess, was pretty big, right? And Russia kind of inherited that influence as a Soviet Union.
Well, the Russians, like, sorry to interrupt you, but the Russians, they've always had an interest in Africa because of the natural resources they can
Mhm.
pull from Africa.
Mhm.
Like, as you said, like even in the Soviet Union. So this is like many, many years ago now. Like they've always been fixated on trying to get into Africa,
Mhm.
and the more we allow them to actually gain such a large presence in Africa, not only will they start stealing from Africa the
Yeah,
resources, the gold, the minerals, all this stuff like that that they can get. It's they will, as you said, like they start massacring. Like I look at Wagner Group like ISIS. You've
Mhm.
got ISIS in Nigeria now, and now you're gonna have once you start having Wagner roll through Africa, it's gonna be like the Slavic equivalent of ISIS, in my opinion. Um, but it's like going back to like the migrant situation and stuff like that. It's like with all the illegal immigration, people are complaining, saying like, "Oh, like they're just men. They're all fighting age men." Blah 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 blah. Why do we think like that? There's obviously a reason for that. Do you know what I mean? Like as you said, like the Russians, if they get hold of these fighting age men, that like that's it. Like they don't stand a chance. They're either recruited and forced, or that they just what's the word? Oh, fuck. I can't think of the word. Exploited is the word.
Uh-huh.
They exploit them, and this is why, like, if I feel like not only does the world need to realize, like, yes, we have like the Russian Federation, like the Russian army. Yes, that's a problem, but we also have these private companies that are operating outside of Russia, you know, that are also having their own war, against Europe on a different side. You know, whether that's causing, you know, illegal immigration, you know, or stealing resources, cyber warfare, like all of this stems from one cell, and it is from the Russians.
Hmm.
That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
you're
a
correct, Fuzzy. Yeah.
yeah.
And just like you mentioned, the interest is not just with natural resources, they're also seeking manpower from Africa. I mean, there are
Yeah.
lots of Africans who are involved in, the war in Ukraine,
Hmm.
and some are either coerced into joining the Russian military or even forcibly conscripted, you know. And
Hmm.
we're not just talking about ordinary Africans, we're talking about militiamen. I mean, in the Central African Republic, you have a rebel group called Union for Peace that has been at war with the Russians, for a long time. That's at war with Russian paramilitaries in the country. Now, one of the incentives that the Russians gave to this group is that they should lay down their arms and then get recruited into the group in exchange for a ceasefire. So
Hmm.
there are a lot of members of the Union for Peace that are currently working under the Wagner Group, and many of them were taken to Russia for training. Some of them
Hmm.
Hmm.
ended up on the front lines,
In
in Ukraine.
Ukraine.
That's correct.
It's just like you can see it, like, because I'm in Ukraine, like my TikTok, like, I don't know what you call it, but like, you know, when you scroll through and you have like the feed,
Yeah.
my
Mm.
feed every now and again, it's like it will come up with Africans that are
Yeah.
like, you know, on the front lines in Ukraine and stuff like that,
Mm.
you know, but it's like, I remember in Kharkiv, you had the African Corps or whatever it is, the National
Yeah.
African Corps or whatever the name of it was. And it was like, if you actually look at it, like they sent all of these Africans first over the border.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like they didn't really stand much of a good chance because they were all under equipped and they were
Mm.
sent in at night time. Like
Yeah.
with like no capabilities to actually operate at night. So they were
Mm.
basically just walking in unknown territory, not knowing really where they're going or what they're doing. And they ended up bumping into a load of guards, you know, who were like, right, fuck off. And then obviously that's when it all stemmed as well. But I've also met Africans fighting for Ukraine,
Yeah.
you know, and I tell you, like, some of them, like, they can be very, very difficult to work with because they've had training in, like, for example, like I met one guy who was Nigerian army, and those guys are fucking crazy. Like if they join the Nigerian army, like they're all about having a fight. Like they don't really give a fuck about anything else. They just want to fight. You know, so like trying to get them to like rein it in and, you know, guide them into, you know, like a tactical position or something like that, it can be quite difficult. But there's so many good guys over here that are from Africa, you know, that are black, you know, that people do respect. It's kind of like, how can you sit there and say that like Ukraine is such a negative country or culture towards black people or Africans, you know, specific, when, you know, they fight just how we do, they're treated the same, they're fed the same stuff, you know, they get, if anything, they actually, because some of them come over with nothing, they're even clothed, you know, like Ukraine and compared to Russia, like Ukrainians, like the Africans operate the same with the same equipment that Ukrainians do. From the Russian perspective, from what I've seen, that the Russians get all the gear and the Africans just get the scraps, you know,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, well, like how, and you know, these Africans worship these Russians, and it's they're like, how is that positive? Like, there's nothing good coming from that. Like, you are literally a sandbag, like with meat and blood. Like that's all you are. But I don't know, I can talk all day about how much like it pisses me off, and the reason it pisses me off a lot is because, you know, I've lived in Africa, you know, and
Oh,
I've
I
met a
didn't
lot of
know
guys.
that.
Yeah, South Africa. Yeah,
Hmm.
I lived in Cape Town for a little bit. Yeah. You know, and I've met loads of guys. You know, like Zulus, Causers. I've met them all. Um, and yes, you know, like you have like the Causers and the Zulus, two completely different cultures in a sense, same country, different cultures, but yet they've always been pleasant. You know, I've never had a bad running with anybody. You know,
Mm.
but like you look at them like, and they sit there and they say like, a lot of them are very pro-Russian because they seem to think that Russia is giving them all this money, but Russia's not giving them anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like guys, like open your fucking eyes and stop listening to the propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, like
Yeah.
Totally right. And
mm.
Fuzzy, what did you do there in South Africa? I'm curious.
So I work doing like anti-poaching and stuff like that.
Anti what?
Poaching.
Poaching? What's that?
Yeah.
Fortune.
Ah,
Yeah, like anti-poaching, like save the rhino, all that stuff like that.
ah, okay.
Yeah, it's on my Instagram, bro. Have a look. Like there's
Yeah.
some cool pictures.
Wait, save the
Um,
rhino? Like, okay. So you were.
I mean, yeah, that's still a big issue in Africa when it comes to rhino poaching. I mean, there's a
mhm.
time when it was reported. I did an investigation on that, and then I realized that there were some diplomats from North Korea who were involved in this trafficking of rhino horns from Africa. Yeah,
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
so
a lot of it is like the Asian market where like the
yeah,
rhino horns are wanted because like the bigger the horn, obviously the more money it is. And
yeah,
like in like Asian countries and stuff like that, like it's people put it in like not soups as such, but like ornaments, and they seem to think like some of it has like healing properties and stuff like that as well.
yeah.
And how were you
Mm.
saving rhinos there? I am now checking your Instagram. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we were
I
doing
see some rhinos.
so basically we were like tracking poachers and stuff like that and reporting poachers and stuff.
So poachers are, we call them in Ukrainian braconniers.
Hmm.
Do you know this word? Like, does it
Oh, I
sound?
don't know the word, no.
Poachers. So those who basically kill the enemies when it's forbidden to kill those enemies, right? When it's not
Yeah,
hunting
like so
season.
like endangered species and stuff like that. Like yeah.
Thank you, Fuzzy. Thank you for sharing this. It's a really interesting piece of information that I didn't know about you, and thank
Mhm.
you for choosing that, because that's also caring about the animals who extinct, and I think it's pretty decent in my opinion. That from Ogre. He asked you, I guess, Philip, Rick, who in Africa is hiring those Russian mercenaries and why? What do they get from them?
So yes, the Central African Republic did hire Russian mercenaries. In fact, there's still the one country where you have a massive amount of Russian paramilitaries present in the country. But to understand why these mercenaries are in the country, I have to take you back to 12 years ago, 2013. That was the year when the Central African Republic descended into civil war, when Christian militiamen and Muslim rebels fought against each other to control government. So the UN imposed an arms embargo on the country when the civil war broke out. Somehow, the Central African Republic managed to conduct a presidential election in 2016, and current president Francine Achaje Tudera took office in 2016. The problem was, at the time he took office, was that only the capital, Bangui, was under the government control at the time he took office. The rest of the country was either in the hands of Christian militiamen or Muslim rebels. So it was only a matter of time before Bangui, the capital, fell under the control of either of these armed groups. So he sought help from Western nations at the time in terms of having soldiers from these countries get into the Central African Republic to assist his forces. The problem was the country was still under arms embargo. And so he had no option but to run to Russia for help. He needed two things from Russia. The first is to get Russia's help in ensuring that the UN Security Council lifted the arms embargo that was imposed on the country. The second one was that Russia needed to assist him. He wanted Russia to assist him in training Central African forces and also having Russian boots on ground to protect the government, especially the presidential palace and the family of the president. Now, Russia agreed to this, proposal, but with the condition that it was going to have access to the mineral resources, especially gold and diamonds that were present in the country. The only challenge for the Russians at the time was that none of the gold and diamond mines, were located in Bangui, the capital. These mines were in areas that were under the control of rebel groups. So the Russians, at the time they got into the country, they knew that if they needed to get access to these mines, they would have to fight against these armed men. So that is how the Russians began to target mining communities in attempts to cripple or to kill, these militia men. The Russians have been killing civilians, carrying out massacres, just to be able to control the mines that are located in the communities where these rebels operate. So that is how they got involved in the Central African Republic. Until this day, they are still very active, very present, very much involved in the country. Now, in Mali, the Malian government is a military government. The military government has been in power for the last couple of years. They first truncated democracy in 2020 when a coup led by Colonel Sadio Kamara and Asimo Gaita toppled the government of Boubacar Keita, and a transition government was formed. But later on, the military toppled that transition government, and now military officers are the ones in power. So when the military took power, the EU, the African Union, and the West African regional body ECOWAS decided to sever ties with Mali. So Mali had only one friend to run to, that's Russia. And mind you, the military officers who carried out the coup of 2020 traveled to Moscow for training, military training, and they returned in August of 2020. And just a matter of days after they returned, they toppled the government. So it was very clear that the coup was planned in Russia. So there was Russian backing for the coup in Mali. And when these officers ensured that democracy was truncated, the only allies they had was Russia. But I understand that they're paying about $10,000 every month to to Russia, or to the African core, whatever you call it, to be able to have the services of these Russian paramilitaries in Mali. So it's either a country is paying the Russians to provide security, or a country is allowing Russian paramilitaries to exploit the resources of this country, of the African nation. So it's two ways: either being paid or explore resources. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the answer, Philip. And Ogar is also thanking you for the information.
I mean,
And
are Ukrainians positive that that NATO and the US will, come back into supporting Ukraine with more ammunition, more financing? Is there positivity, across Ukraine that NATO will do something?
to be honest, I feel, and I think some Ukrainians will also agree with me, that we're on our own. Not like, you see, the problem is, yes, partners are helping us, but to help us properly, there should be another approach. You see, when they are ordering some drones and producing them in Europe, right? Like a month or two passes while they're delivered to Ukraine. Sometimes 3, sometimes half a year, and those drones are too old already. The technology is changing so fast on the battlefield that they just cannot keep up with it. Europe cannot keep up with it. The United States cannot keep up, and it should be produced in Ukraine. This is why, yes, it's very good that European countries, a lot of them, are investing into production in Ukraine, and our companies will be dealing with that. And if they have enough money invested into their production, they may even be changing some characteristics of the drones, like right there during the production, for the needs of the brigades, the units. But yeah, so that's the problem of speed. And why I say we're on our own, not completely, but the problem is Europe right now is not showing. I'm not even talking about the United States, who are like, they completely changed the approach to Ukrainian Ukraine, yeah, this Russian war against Ukraine when Trump came to power. So let's speak only about Europeans, because Europeans are showing the real support right now, not the United States. So Europeans, it seems like they don't really realize right now how important it is for Ukraine to win and how much they need to do to invest into that victory. And they are like, in my opinion, and it's actually an opinion of some other Ukrainians, and probably not my opinion, but something that I got from them, to be honest. But the European Union right now is thinking to just wait through, like, behind Ukraine's back. So we wait for 3-4 more years while Ukraine is going to be occupied bit by bit more, but it's still not going to come to us, and we will rearm, we will increase our capabilities. So basically just using Ukraine right now. Sorry, European partners, and guys, of course I'm not addressing the members of this community, I'm addressing your leaders, who openly say, some of them like Boris Pistorius called Ukraine Europe's shield. Yeah, he calls Ukraine Europe's shield. Polish politicians are also calling Ukraine a shield for Europe. And Orban, in the interview yesterday, said that it's like a buffer zone between Europe and Russia. And, all of this is becoming more popular in Europe. And there's a lack of action in Europe still. It seems like, wow, Europe is helping us so much, but it's not enough. It should be 5 times more in terms of not only the amounts of money or number of equipment. It should be in terms of like the will and the action. Like less talk, more action. And of course, in democracies, it's just how it is. There is always more talk than immediate action, and it's just impossible to have that action. So we're in a very bad situation. But I'll also ask Aziza. Aziza, how do you feel? How do you feel Europe and maybe also United States do we feel like we have their support, or are we on our own?
Exactly. Today, we talked with my friend about how it was in the beginning of full-scale war, and we asked Europe and United States close the sky for the Mariupol. Do you remember this time?
Yeah, I do.
And we asked, it was so naive to ask about this because what does it mean? It means a lot of plans, a lot of weapons, and the system of Europe and United States. It's so so hard to have it immediately, like we need it, like we need it now, not in 3 months or 2 months. We need it now, and it's impossible by this system
Mm-hmm.
of democracy, yeah, because it's only the dictatorships can do it immediately and don't ask the people if we can do it or not. They just support, just North Korea supported directly without difficult Russian, and they
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of support in such states. And yeah, I'm absolutely agree with you. It's not enough for us, and I think that people could not imagine the scale of this war. So
Yeah.
they for them they could not imagine how it's really horrible. And we need weapon more and more, and it's like online we lost a lot of weapons online. We need really great supporting and great understanding that it's not about only Ukraine, it's not about only we have, like I told today on the Azov rally, we are connected, we have one world. And
Yeah.
Russia also has a lot of partners, and these partners um, is also enemies for different countries that also try to be free with democracy and try to be really with great future for next generations. So I think we have to work more for explanation to our partners how it's important to do, and I don't know how we can make better,
To be
but
honest,
it's like
Aziza, I think we already explained everything perfectly, and Zelensky keeps explaining it to them.
yeah.
It's not more like not enough understanding, but actually I think it's no wish to understand. You know how people like to keep staying in their comfort zone, just like um, just like denying the truth, saying this will never happen to me. You know, understanding, like deeply understanding that this may happen to them too, and understanding that someday Russia will come, but just not willing to go out of the comfort zone because life is so cool and easy and peaceful right
you,
now.
you know, also people need to see a lot of victims. So when they saw Bucha, when they saw the Bucha, when they saw the proofs, they began to exactly in from that time they began to support. So they need to see a lot of dead people,
Yeah,
a lot of violence for supporting. And for example, if we are talking about Crimea, where you can find silent terror and you
yeah,
can find a lot of people in prison or lost, it's like they could not understand how it's terrible to live under Russian occupation in Crimea, and how really um, they destroyed nature, they destroyed history, and really step by step we can disappear our nation and the truth can disappear, and it's also hard to explain if we didn't see a lot of videos with dead children, and we
yeah.
can can't explain why it's important to the occupied Crimea, and why it's really a reason not only for Ukrainian or for Crimean Tatar, it's a reason for the world, and it's like punct of the map that
Point.
always was in such conflicts, because Crimea is really important place for the you know, is this history. So it's really I don't know, it's sad, because I don't want that in other nations will see such wars, will see such um, terrible violence, but it seems that they have to see it directly in own houses to understand that we need to be united, and we need to do more.
Yeah, you see, the human nature, I think, is like this. You need to, like, a lot of people need to experience something themselves to truly believe or truly start acting. Thank you, Aziza, for this answer.
Yeah, thank you so much. So now to respond to what Fuzi and Aziza have said, um, I understand that there's a lot of politics going on, and uh, I don't know what people gain if they see this war extend to as long as it is. But Ukraine don't have so much to do in this regard. I mean, Ukraine still needs help, but they can't force the help.
Yeah.
It behoves on Europe now to help to assist where they can, and I hope that that changes. Going forward. I know that some countries, in NATO itself have made some assistance in the past, but I mean, we're talking about a strong power in Russia, and Ukraine needs much more than the little they've gotten already. But
Mm-hmm.
I understand what's going on, especially with what Fosi and Aziza have explained. So I like to see that this changes going forward. Yeah.
Yep. Fuzzy, your thoughts?
Yeah. Obviously everybody can always do a little bit more. Especially with like everybody's already ramping up defence budgeting. Um, like the UK, they're ramping up their defense budget. The US, they're always trying to ramp up a defense budget. But I do agree that like there is a lot of weaponry that we should have had, not necessarily pre-war, but very, very early on in the war, because a lot of the things that are happening were predicted. Do you know what I mean? So things that happened in 2024 were predicted in 2022. Things that happened in 2022 were predicted in 2021. You know, not by Ukrainians, you know, alone, but also by the West, because everybody knew like something was going to happen. But no, like I personally think that everybody can do a little bit more, including us. You know, like the Ukrainians can also do more. I personally think that, like, you know, the Ukrainian taxes, in my opinion, should be raised a little bit. You know, because everybody has to do more. You know, like if Ukraine wants to stay as Ukrainian, obviously the Ukrainians all have to come together. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they haven't, because they have. A lot of them have. You know, but that also means that the West also has to come together, because if they don't want this on their doorstep, they need to start acting now. You know, it's like, as I say to all of like my friends and all of the blokes, like, rather than being reactive, let's be proactive. You know, it's like I don't go to a position like a mortar position and go, right, for example, let's not put the mortar up because we're not going to shoot that till tomorrow. You know, like we don't do that, you know, because we set it up the day before. So then if there is any problems, we have all that time to deal with it, you know. And the West should have done it. Ukraine needs to do it. Everybody needs to do it personally. But a lot of this shit was all predicted, bro. I just feel a lot of people, rather than dealing with the problems, decided to fuck around and start doing other shit, really. You know, like, for example, everybody knew the invasion was coming. Rather than building, you know, like start supplying and building the Ukrainian army up, they just left it. Ukrainian art, like, and then Russia invaded, and then the West went, oh shit. Well, we knew that was going to happen, and everybody went, yeah. And then Zelensky was like, you're going to give us ammo? And they went, yeah, just wait, bro, wait. And then, like, eventually, slowly but surely, things started to happen and come in. But it was too late, because if that weaponry was already there, things could have turned out different, you know, like massively different. I'm not saying that Ukraine didn't fight hard during, like, in the beginning or anything like that, but they were they had a lot less than they do now. And if they had everything they had now, things could have been different. You know, it's like, for example, like we're only just going to start getting the Patriot systems 150 meters away from my you know, my home. Right, there's a hole in a fucking apartment building that blew my window off the other day. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if we had a Patriot, maybe that could have not happened.
Yeah.
But you know, they've all decided, you know what, we'll do it now. A little too late, but we'll do it now. It just boils my piss. But as I say, like, I don't make the decisions. We don't make the decisions. So obviously, we're all going to be angry and upset, you know, and we all know that we can do more. But let's be real, like, the people that can make like a real big change is our governments.
Mm.
And that's it, you know, like, end of the day, we are just the pawns, you know, trying to help and support each other whilst they're all sat there having wine and cheese. It's like, bro, shut the fuck up, man.
Was the dog?
How do I do this? Is that it? Yeah, there you
Wow. She's sleeping.
go.
Beautiful, yeah.
Hey, come on. Look, say hello. No, he's not having it. He's all right. He's to be fair, he's on this can you wake up and say hello to people? No. No, he's on this new food that's like good for, like, it's his stomach, in it. Yeah, his stomach. So I was feeding him like a raw diet, as I'm sure a lot of you would know. But for, like, I don't know why, but it just didn't work well for him. I don't know why. Just sensitive stomach. So So he's now on this new sensitive dog food thing, and he's been all right. To be fair, had absolutely no issues with him apart from he's just stubborn. When like to be fair, when we had the drone that hit the apartment building just over the road, it's like 100 meters away. Ollie, like the missus hit the ceiling. She jumped out of bed, hit the ceiling, nearly went through it. She ran off, and as she's run out, like I'm still kind of like like a mongoloid. And I'm stood there like I'm just telling her like take the dog with you then, like let me get dressed, take the dog. Like so as I'm like climbing out of bed, like she's left the house and I'm trying to now give her the dog, and it was just a clusterfuck really. And then he decided that he didn't want to go sit in the hallway, he wanted to sit in the bathroom. So he sat in the bathroom for the best part of 20 minutes, just like that. Which, to be fair, was quite horrible, but that's just him. And then eventually they got into the hallway, and everything was all right. Everybody was in the hallway, and it all went well. But yeah, he's big. He's still very fat and doesn't do much. I'm kicking him now, and he's just not moving. Like, here you go. He's done something. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. Fuck off. Here you go. Doing something. Look, I'll just give him a nudge. Here you go. What are you doing? What are you doing? You can say hello. Say hello. There you go. You going to bed? Yeah. So yeah, he's alright. He's just struggling.
Yeah, it's good to see him. Thank you, Fuzzy, for showing him
No
to us.
problem.
Aziza, so this is actually the second time you're meeting Philip on my streams, and I'm sure you probably have some questions for him too. So please ask them.
I want to ask if I'm sorry I wasn't on from the beginning of stream, and maybe you told us about this, but if you mark some changes through your people through the on the African continent till we met last time, maybe something positive or negative. It's interesting. What do you think? If it's better time or it's begin to be much worse situation, like I know from the fuzzy from this about the shaheds and about how Russian use the people from African continent. I think it's maybe not so good, but I hope maybe it's we have some good changes.
I'm afraid I don't have good news for you, Aziza. Before you joined us, I was talking about how,
Aziza, may you please mute
yeah,
yourself? Yeah, thank
yeah.
you.
So before you joined us, I was talking about how Russian disinformation is spreading across Africa. I mean, a couple of years ago, I had investigated Russian disinformation in West Africa. Now I can tell you that that campaign has tripled, if not quadrupled, in terms of how Russia engages the media, in terms of the new accounts, social media accounts that are spreading Russian disinformation. Now, that increase is not just in West Africa, it's also in Central Africa. But as we speak, East Africa and Southern Africa is beginning to see massive Russian disinformation in its media space. So, what Russia does is this: it gets some people, fake authors, who write articles and then send these articles to a number of media outlets across Africa. Oftentimes, these authors pay these media outlets to publish these articles, and that's what happens in in print media and on online media. Then on social media, you see more and more fake accounts created by Russian agents spreading disinformation. But it doesn't end there. On social media, Russia is now beginning to contact influencers. They're beginning to engage influencers and pay these influencers who have massive amount of following to post propaganda, you know, articles, propaganda footage, propaganda audio, and what have you. So, and a lot of this information is targeted at Ukraine and the West. For example, you will see news stories on social media claiming that the US, in collaboration with Ukraine, is moving bioweapons labs from Ukraine and then now establishing them in Africa. Yeah. And there's also the kind of stories that you will hear saying that Ukraine is funding some kinds of terror groups in Africa, not just Ukraine, the US as well. So those are the kind of disinformation you see, that is growing across Africa. And it's really worrisome. The biggest issues that we have, we as journalists would try to report the truth, is the fact that we don't see too many support, to fact check this and to actually counter this narrative because it's growing. And many Africans are not believing what they see online, what they read in newspapers, what they read on social media. So it's the biggest concern that we have, Russia's growing disinformation. The other thing that disinformation does, and why Europe must be concerned, is the fact that on many local radio stations, especially in the Sahel region is the region close to North Africa. Those countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, they are all located in the Sahel and they're very close to North Africa. Now, in a lot of local radio channels, you will hear commentators who are clearly pro Russian, encouraging Africans to migrate to Europe. And this migration is one of the big issues that Europe faced in the past. I'll give you a clear example. There is a city in the central part of Niger called Agadez. Now, Agadez is the hub of human trafficking and people smuggling in West Africa. The vast majority of sub Saharan Africans who seek to travel to Europe from Africa converge in Agadez. And when they get to Agadez, which is where you can easily find people smugglers, every Tuesday in Agadez, convoys of vehicles transport migrants from Agadez across the Sahara Desert into Libya. And when they get to Libya, they are then put on boats that takes them across the Mediterranean Sea to, to Europe, to Italy or to Greece. So in 2015, the Nigerian government enacted or passed a law. The law was actually passed by parliament, but the president signed the law, and that law criminalized people smuggling. The law made people smuggling illegal. But what happened 2 years ago when a pro Russian military junta took control of power? Now, that military government, the military junta, decided to abolish that law. So by abolishing that law, it has now made people smuggling legal, so to speak. So right now, as we speak, Aziza and Rick, thousands of Africans are now converging in Agadez, where they get on vehicles every Tuesday that take them across the Sahara Desert to Libya, and from Libya they go across the Mediterranean Sea to Europe. Now, the Russian disinformation is claiming that there's a lot of problems in Africa, and people should find ways of migrating to Europe through Agadez. So you see the issues that Russia is creating. One, trying to make Ukraine look so bad before Africans, and also trying to create a migration problem for Europe by encouraging thousands of Africans, to make the dangerous journey to Europe. So those are the issues. And I know this because I've been able to travel to these areas to speak to people who are involved in this kind of business. And in fact, it's the reason why I started my GoFundMe campaign, because there's a lot to uncover. And even when it comes to migration, there's still a lot to uncover. That is why it's important that people, donate to support this campaign. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for your answer. Sometimes I think about how to make Russia very poor, to make Russia in big struggle, in big suffering, and so they could not support such campaign, because um it's really hard to explain how Russia is still great. It still have the money for doing such big companies, not only in on the African continent, but in Europe too, and the United States. And they have so a lot of instruments through the culture, through the media, through the a lot of things, and it's make me so angry, because we could not do same work, we could not share our reality, our truths, because we have no supporting. So, like, for example, if I say about me, I can do really good work with my performances, with my music, with explanations through the culture, but I have no supporting, and I have to fight for my existence and for existence of my music to do it. But in same moment, Russian agents, Russian artists, Russian good Russian that also support this philosophy of Russian world, they have everything. They have supporting of Russian oligarchs, and it's. I really want that Russian will be more big, will see big crisis in Oven. I wanted, because they had this in the history after the Soviet Union was crashed. United States give them food,
Yeah.
because they had no food. They have no. They really were in a very terrible situation, and they forgot about this. How United States supports them, how
Mm.
United States helps them all time, and
They did not
really I want.
forget. They
I'm
erased it in their history, and
Yeah, and
basically,
I'm really angry. Maybe I'm a very bad person, but I want to see these people in suffering, because
oh, you're
they
not.
have to be in such situation to stop to create such great evil in this world, and it's big monster, and I hope we can do it through our fight against Russian, and yeah, the way it's long, but we have to do it.
Aziza, you're not a
Of
bad
course, very
person.
important. Yeah.
You're just, yeah, you're just, yeah, sorry. Philip, please.
Okay. Yeah, I see you're fading. Well, it's very important, Aziza, that we all come together to fight, against these kinds of atrocities and injustice. I think in many ways, even though Ukraine is feeling the heat much more than anywhere else, but in Africa, in countries like Mali, especially in the Central African Republic, we are still seeing Russian aggression take the lives of young people. Young girls have been raped, women have been murdered in their own farms, and some of these more killings are gruesome. There are cases where Russian paramilitaries have slaughtered women, torn open their stomach, removed their intestines, and what have you. So you see very gruesome killings by Russian paramilitaries in Central Africa. There've been cases of people being beheaded. There've also been cases of women being raped in the hospital, and the women who just gave birth in maternity wards being raped, by Russian paramilitaries. There are cases of children as young as 11 being tortured in gold mines, So these atrocities are similar to what we have heard about Russian killings and atrocities in places like Bucha, for example, Mariupol, and what have you. So as much as Europe, Ukraine has seen so much of Russian violence, there's a little bit of that happening here in Africa, and that's why it's very important that we tell these stories. Yeah, I have also. I mean, the last time we spoke, I told you about my experience in Central African Republic, where I was arrested and tortured by Central African soldiers on the orders of Russian paramilitaries. That is the risk of this job, because sometimes if you have to make people understand what's going on, you have to be in the areas where these atrocities take place, and that's the risk involved. But it's like life and death. Journalism is like life and death. So you have to tell the story, and sometimes you do it at the risk of your own life. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand because in Crimea, Russian imprisoned a lot of journalists, and a lot of journalists had to run from Crimea because of
Mm.
Russian occupation, and a lot of civilian people begin to be like journalists. So they took this role to like show the truth through often like iPhones, through the like
Yeah.
devices that they have to show this truth, and they imprison these people too. For example, I it was 2 weeks ago. It was event like presentation of the book Crimean Tatar, Osman Arif Mimetov, that now he in prison in Russia, and he sent his notes about how he was in prison, the days about his days in prison of Russia, and he described this system. He described how Russian tortured people in prison, and he described how it's in general absolutely world of lie in everything. So it's like it's not the court, it's not the law, it's like a circus, it's like performance uh, when you have no rights absolutely. It's like only like uh, play in human rights. It is nothing. And for example, he described how Ichkeria, Caucasus, Ichkeria, and he described how person from Ichkeria is 19 years in prison. It's 19,
Mm.
so he was 19 years in prison, and he's still in prison, and he was tortured, and and he and they give him more years in prison. So every year they make plus another years for him, and
Yeah.
it's very and I know how it's how it's dangerous to
Mm.
live in such systems, in such governments, when they didn't care, they don't care about human rights, they don't care about the truth, and so you cannot be defended by the rights. So your work is so great because we describe it today after the rally of Azov with a friend, that it's much it's I feel myself safe in Ukraine, even
Mm.
under the rockets. I feel myself
Mm.
very safe because we have
Mm.
human rights, because we have I know this human face of in general of our system. So but it's very dangerous to live under um, power such big evil. It's
Mm.
so your work is so great, and I hope you will be safe. And thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you, Aziza. Just like yours, I mean, music is something that really gets to the soul of people, and that you're inspiring a lot of people through art. You know, makes a lot of sense, and I really, really am humbled, honestly, and I'm so proud of you to start with, and so appreciative of you as well. Yeah, thank you.
Let me spin the wheel and tell you who's going to be the winner of the flag. The beautiful flag behind me, this one. And I'll do it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spinning it. And it's clicking. Clicking and clicking. And the winner is number 341. Number 341. Let's go see who that is. 341. Ooh, that's Dr. Tuso from Andres and Tune. Wow. Dr. Tuso got a ticket gifted from Andres and Tune, 2 tickets. And he's winning the flag. Congratulations, Dr. Tuso. Thank you, Andres and Tana, for giving him the winning ticket. Okay, we need to go. As I always say, live long, prosper, and donate. And Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
Героям слава. Thank you, Philip. Thank
Adam
you.
Slava.
Thank,
Bye-bye.
thank you, Philip and Aziza, and see you next time soon. Bye. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, leave any comment under it, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. You can find the full stream recording. This clip was taken from here. And I invite you to join us on Rig the Ukrainian here for live streams and videos from Ukraine. Thank you, and live long and prosper.